Hi, this is Glenda. I just got this stamp set. It was on the top of my wish list from the new Stampin' Up! Catalogue, and so that made me put an order in. I really liked the idea of the bird, and I always like three-step flowers. And from that point on, I've been having a lovely learning experience, she says with a bit of sarcasm. The first thing I learned was really helpful, that I wanted to cut out my flowers, and so I cut a few with scissors, and I thought, I have a scan and cut, I'm going to master this. Normally the scan and cut just won't get this sort of thing, it just doesn't happen. And I always knew you could put a heavy black line around, but you don't always want to put a heavy black line around your stamping. Discovered if you do a really light pencil line around, which is really hard to do while you're talking. It does need to be continuous, but it can be very faint, and I prefer to cut right on my image rather than leave a... See, I didn't mess anything up when I was doing it without the camera on. Yeah, I prefer to cut right up against my image rather than leaving a white gap, but because of that, the scan and cut's going to cut right on this line, and I like to sponge my edges anyway, so it basically disappears. If you want to cut with a little border, it's really easy to rub out. It's a really light pencil line, and just by doing that, the scan and cut will see this one, and it will either see none of that one, or it might pick up a couple of the darker spots. So that was a really useful thing for me to learn. As you can see, I have been playing with this a lot. Okay, I'm hoping this works to show you the difference that this pencil line makes. I'm going to scan my images. For those of us who have not yet received the upgrade that the UK got that makes the scanning a whole lot better, those of us who are still suffering, you can see, hopefully there, that immediately that got the one on the right and not the one on the left, because that is the magical difference of that pencil line. Okay, so I'll tell that to cut. There it is, and it has cut it out perfectly. You can barely see the line, and as I say, it's easy to erase or to sponge around. So that was something I was really pleased about, because that applies to all sorts of stamps. So the second thing was that I decided I wanted to have my shape and stamp it, cut it out before I stamped it. So one way to do that is to stamp it in black, the three layers on top of each other, and then I did actually do the pencil line as well, and then I just saved that to my machine. And I did the same thing with the bird, and I'll get back to that. What I discovered with the bird was that I can't stamp it. I have stamped it dozens and dozens and dozens of times, and I can't do it. I just can't get it to line up. So, I mean, it was sort of getting there, but it wasn't anything I was willing to use. If I cut it first, I have some chance of getting a bird that I'm happy enough to use. So, I did, as I say, use this and saved it. And then I decided I wanted something even more accurate than this, so I got the image from the catalogue, layered the three of those parts, and traced around it using the Canvas software online. So you can do this with any cutter. If you don't have a scan and cut where you're going to scan it in, you simply use a scanner and then use the tracing component of whatever your software is. So with a silhouette, I would scan that on my scanner, save it as a JPEG, and then just put it into the Silhouette Studio software and tell it use the trace function. And you can get your cut files that way. And I imagine Cricut and all the others on the market that would let you do the same thing. Anything that has software, not just cartridges. So what I have for people who want it is a scan and cut file with those two images in it, so you can cut them out. So if you have a scan and cut and you have this stamp set, it may be of interest, but it's not hard to do yourself. With the stamping of this bird, I shall see if I can get this just right. The first layer, I discovered if I stamped it slightly higher, and then the second layer, we're going sort of towards the bottom a little bit more. For my preference, I liked black for the last layer. With the different colours I'd played with, the pale ones just showed up the flaws way too much. With this one, the line you're lining up is not quite the edge of the stamp, and I kept lining up with the edge of the stamp and getting it wrong. So the line of the tummy there has to go on here, and the beak has to go on here. And then it's got this little tiny bit that goes for a bit of colour on his throat, which just goes in there somewhere. And yeah, I still wasn't ecstatic with this, but then all the magic happened and everything got better when I sponged the edges. I just sponged some black around the edges, and pretty much every single one that I had stamped on the pre-cut bird I considered to be usable. As I say, I still can't manage to stamp it directly on the card. I just can't. So obviously other people, a number of people said you do need to practice, but I practiced my heart out, and then even on these cut ones. So I have made some cards, amazingly enough. This is the first one that I made, and I just put the flowers on it. And then this was the one after, but that doesn't really matter. You don't care what order I made them in. So there we've got one with the bird, and then I did another one with the bird plus a different flower, and the last one I did. But yes, that sponging at the end makes a massive difference. So there's my steep learning curve with this stamp set. I'm not saying it's not good, I'm just not saying it's not what I expected from it. But I love learning, so that has served the purpose. So if you've got that and that's any help, thanks for watching.